So here we go, buddy. Part three about our weight loss story. I'll just get
Yeah.
this up on my. Uh, here we go. So I was explaining to you the zigzag that I was
Now, do you
having.
want to just zoom out a little bit on that if you could, Free, so everyone can see the whole zigzags?
Yeah, like
So there's a whole series of zigzags there when you
yeah,
get within a gnat swing of your goal,
yeah. Because this
and
is a
then
weight loss. This is like if you go back here, you can see
actually
where I
let's
started.
zoom right out. Let's zoom right out and show the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And you
So
zoom, yeah.
shrink it down. Yeah.
So so look at that in the beginning. It's
Yeah.
your weight dropped like you were jumping off a cliff. It just
Yeah,
bang
that
straight
was
down.
pure keto and ditching the water. So you can see the start's got a straight line at the beginning,
Yeah,
and the drop above it was before I used the app, but I'd started at 92 kilos. So I hit the app at
right.
about 84 kilo or something like that. And then you've got the caloric restriction combination with the keto. And then look at this, the last month of me getting within a cooey of the goal of 72 kilograms, which is a 20-kilogram weight loss. So a 72.2. Each time I come within 0.2, 0.3 of the goal, I sabotage and flip around and zigzag. I'm
Yeah.
on the way back down again and thinking this time I'll nail it. But, there's someone saying, come out for dinner, have a drink, eat this, eat that, or I lose sleep. And it's just, it's like subconsciously you just chuck the towel in and lose your focus. It's funny that, yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I see the same thing time after time when people are working on relationship goals, financial goals, attracting the ideal partner, whatever we work on. And the advantage with weight is when you take notes, it's easy to graph. With financial stuff, it's easy to graph. But the same things happen. People work towards a goal, they get that close to it, and then they bounce back in the opposite direction. So, what's going on there?
Well, the interesting thing is, I set a goal to get 100 videos up on here 2.5 years ago, and just incidentally, it was after I gave up striving to achieve that. It just occurred, and I set a goal 5 years ago to do 50 push-ups straight in a row. And the
Yeah,
interesting thing is, COVID come along, trashed me, and I put on weight and all the rest of it. So I'm back into that mindset to achieve that result without hurting
yeah,
myself and without doing it to my detriment.
that's a
And
good idea.
I've been getting to 42, 43, 45, and I've had a couple of 49.5s in a row. Point 0.5 is when you just fail on the last one. It's not a clean, pure push-up, right?
Yeah.
And these are proper full push-ups, all the way down, all the way up, and with your toes on
And
the
on your
ground.
toes on the ground. Yeah,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
yeah.
the right posture, straight back, the whole deal. But pushing it for me. Now, I know other people can do hundreds and thousands of push-ups. It's just a personal goal for me. And, it took me that. Now, when I had the mindset of psychology and I got to the 49th goal, I was thinking, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And the sabotage kicked in and you freeze. So this time I said 20 plus 20. No pause, just in your mind, you knock over 20 and then you climb into a bigger number. So as soon as you get
Yeah.
20, you go back to 1. So when I got to this time, I'd already preset up the game that I'm going to go for 15. So I got the 10.
Right.
I got the 10, 20, 20, 10. I had 50 and I just tried for number 51 and I froze in the middle of that. But it's like Roger Bannister, the guy who broke the 4-minute mile. No one had
Yes.
cracked it forever. And then he cracked it. And then weeks later, days later, people start cracking it everywhere. And I know for
Yeah.
me, when I hit the 40 mark, that happened for me. I consistently got beyond 40. I know now, even though it's only half a push-up, I'm beyond 50. So it's going to keep going by itself. But
Yes.
it's so incredible with weight loss, with all these things. See, I want to set a baseline so that when I get my scan and I know what my body fat ratio is, I'll know what I'm doing to myself, because weight's not a really good indicator really about weight loss, because at the end of the day, you can go and have a crap and, drop half a kilo, or you can take on a lot of liquids, stress, emotion, 100 things, but it doesn't really describe your metabasal rate. It doesn't describe your health and well-being. it's really just a marker that's observable by visualization. Say, oh, I've got to lose weight or I've lost weight. But when
Yeah,
you get down to these levels of weight reduction, weight loss can be unhealthy. You really got to know what you're doing around your holistic health.
absolutely. And that's, you look at things like intermittent fasting that works so well for a lot of people, but with some people, they lose too much lean muscle mass. So you've really got to work out something that works well for you. And for most people, intermittent fasting and keto are probably the best ways to go. But we all need to do our own personal tweaks. If I don't have enough protein, like I used to do 5 to 7 day fasts once or twice a year. And then I realized that whenever I did that, I'd drop 5 to 7 kilos in 5 to 7 days. But usually 2 or 3 of those kilos was lean muscle. I don't want to be losing that. At 63, it takes a lot of work to put on 2 or 3 kilos of lean muscle.
Well,
Bit different when I was 18.
the lean muscle is essential for mature age people. I mean, that's where you get your ATP, your longevity, your health, and that's your chutzpah, that's your strength, that's your well-being. You start losing lean muscle mass, you've got nothing to fight disease or anything with.
Absolutely. And so for me, and this isn't the same for everyone, but for me personally, um, I need to have a significant amount of good quality protein at least twice a day to maintain my lean muscle. If I
Yeah,
don't, I'm going backwards.
it's really interesting. I was talking to a friend who watched a vegan movie, and they were talking about how meat causes all these issues. And I said to him, it's funny how the lines get blurred, but it's actually true. And I agree with it 100%. Excess meat. But if you have diminished or zero meat, that causes problems as well. So, of course, if you're eating too much protein, the protein's got nowhere to go and it will turn to sugar like carbohydrates, and it will spark cortisol. So, what people don't really understand, it comes down to balance, just simply wisdom and
Well,
balance with everything that you eat or take on or do. And then when the people start saying, well, I'm going to eat 6 avocados a day, or I'm going to eat 200 Brazil nuts a day, or something like this, you see them on YouTube all the time. Do this, and you will have a 15-inch hat or something like that. But it just goes on and on and on about these absurd extremities, extremes.
yeah,
And the more I'm getting down to working this out after working with Noom, with the app, after weighing everything to the gram, I'm remembering some of the balanced meals my mother used to bring out without any knowledge or any
yeah.
information. And my meals, now that I've been researching for several years and finally found the holy grail, oh my God, this is the same meal I had when I was 15 or 16 that my parents served up to me.
Funny about that, and there's a couple of things to bring up there. One is what works for one person doesn't work for another.
Absolutely.
I have a keto slash paleo diet, and now at 63, I weigh the same as I did when I was 17 and 18. I remember years ago, a friend I spent a lot of time with, and she was primarily vegetarian. She had a little bit of fish, a little bit of eggs, and when I would smell her food, oh, that tastes delicious. As soon as I'd eat those lentils and beans, I was sick as a dog.
Yeah.
And I realized that if she and I had swapped diets, we would both have been fat and sick.
Yeah, well, it's
So,
interesting. It's interesting you say that because, oh, by the way, for the viewers, this is part 3 of a 3-part series that Russell and I are doing. This is the final part. And it's about health and well-being and food. And we just thought that if we talked about our struggles and our revelations on food, maybe people would get a bit more than just some of the interviews that seem to, I don't know, they don't cover any topics or ground or meat and potatoes so that people can have takeaways. But yeah, look, with this whole food thing, I found some staples that work. and that'll work for me. But like you said, what works for one person doesn't work for another. I mean, some people swear by oats, right? And yet
Yeah.
grains and me are parting company very quickly. I don't have any grains whatsoever, except some rolled oats that I'm managing and cycling in and off, and eventually to leave behind for good. But I'm using them strategically in a way that works for me. But when I saw Supreme Athletes, because I've had a couple live with me, chug 2 bowls of oats, with half a thing of honey, and I realized, oh my God, those guys are headed for some trouble later when they stop their sport. The exercise can cover a multitude of sin. And recently, I watched a thing, Diary of a CEO. He was interviewing a doctor, I forget who it was, and the doctor was saying that exercise does not equate to weight loss.
No.
At all.
No. I've got a friend who's a personal trainer. Yeah, I have a friend who's a personal trainer, and she says that it's, I think it's 10 or 20% exercise, and it's 80 or 90% your diet and state of mind. But she told me that, and this woman's really fit and lean. I think she's about 60 something. Lean, strong. I'm jealous of her biceps and deltoids. She's a fit, strong lady, and she and the other personal trainers would do their show and demonstrate what they do, and then they would say, "Now go and find a trainer you relate to," and all the overweight people would rush to the fattest trainer they could find. Now, if that was me, I wanted to lose weight, I'd look for the one that's the leanest or the muscliest, the ones that looks the fittest. But no. Almost all of them, all the overweight ones, went straight to the heaviest of the personal trainers.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's really interesting that I have found. I think I mentioned this in one of the previous videos we did about the glue that you get at Bunnings, a big bucket, and the catalyst is that big. The exercise is essential. There's no two ways about it. You need exercise.
Yeah.
But the food is, the abs are made in the kitchen. The six pack's made in the kitchen. The food depicts everything. I mean, you can sit in a wheelchair and live for 50 years, 60 years, 80 years. I know people have spent 80 years in a wheelchair, right? So where's the exercise there? They might do hydrobath or something like that. But I know if they're also on a McDonald's diet, they ain't sticking around for 80 years.
That's
they're
true. So
pass out pretty quickly, and the thing is, for me, cardio and exercise, it has its place. Like the walking is one good way to walk off fat, like you will get rid of a lot of subcutaneous fat and maybe even a little bit of belly fat. And then having, say, 2 Brazil nuts will also attack a bit of the visceral fat, 2 a day. There are a lot of strategies, but each person's metabolism, each person's tastes and lifestyles and stresses and emotions. I mean, it is such a complex thing.
It is, and sometimes people can even have the ideal diet, and if their emotions won't let them lose weight, they won't lose weight. And they can eat exactly the same and lose weight when their emotional state is different.
Yeah.
So that's a huge side of it. I don't want to take away from exercise. I often work with people who have serious illness and have been getting some great results. But one of my clients dealing with a really serious disease was seeing the doctor and asked the doctor, how important is exercise? And this doctor said, well, for the average person, the exercise is 6 out of 10 for their general health. But for you with that serious disease, it's 11 out of 10.
Well, yeah, I would concur with that. And I feel exercise and food or diet are equally as important. It's just the ratio.
Yeah.
It's just, where do you place your attention? Like if you say, well, I'm going to be I'll exercise hard, but I'll ignore the food, you're in big trouble. If you go for the food and you don't have the catalyst of the right exercise that is appropriate to the food you're eating, the food thing won't work for you and you'll still have issues. They're both equally as important. So I'm
Yeah.
huge on exercise, but not over exercise. For instance, if you walk between, say, 10 and 15K steps a day, whether it be intentional or incidental or accidental, right? You're headed towards good weight maintenance and good stability, and you'll have less, not just less diabetes and less weight issues, but you'll have less cardiovascular. You'll have less joint problems. You know, it holistically ignites things in your brain. Walking is a great thing, right? But
It's great for a lot of things, but it's not just for weight loss specifically. The walking's probably the least important
yeah,
because you're better off doing high intensity exercise and weights for weight loss.
100%.
But all the people I know who are doing well in their 80s and 90s do a lot of walking.
Yeah.
So I look at the people that are 10, 20 years older than me, who are active, have a great body, are able to move, are able to do whatever they want to do, and they're all walking or cycling.
You know what I put it down to? I put it down to that there is a huge meditative component in the walking. Like when you're walking, you're not working. When you're walking, you might be on your mobile phone a bit at times, you might not, but usually you're watching the world go by at a lot slower rate. You're thinking
Yeah,
and mulling over your stories, and it's time out from other activities. So for me, when I do my 10K steps a day, I some days I would do 20 and sometimes even 30 because unbeknownst to me, I've done my morning walk, got it out of the way, and then someone's turned up and wanted to go for another walk, or I've gone and played badminton, or whatever the case may be. But the thing is, meditation plays a huge part in weight loss and health and well-being.
yeah,
The When people have got anxiety and stress, which leads me into why we came on for this third setup, is what can people do? Yes, they can. We've talked nothing but diet and exercise, but let's talk about what sort of interventions that people can seek out to get them help with that anxiety and stress, because trauma, stress, anxiety, dysfunctional thinking, lack of clarity, ambiguity and conflict of goals. There's so many things where people take on too much.
yeah.
As they've got 7 glasses and they've got 1 pitcher and they're putting the water in, there's only this much in the bottom of each one of them. They're not going to do anything well. And when they don't do anything well, they feel behind, stressed, all that anxiety. So what we're looking for is, how do you find a balance where you don't have to eat to compensate and make up? You're not missing meals. You're not missing sleep, because really at the end of the day, the true masters that walk through life and do have the ideal health, there's something about them. They live a life of peace and calm.
Absolutely. And here I am up in Numbugga, New South Wales, just off the
Gorgeous.
south coast, near Merimbula and Eden, where there's great diving and snorkeling. You really need to keep that life balance, to get outside, get some exercise, get some fresh air, and get your mind into a more relaxed state.
Yeah.
It's one challenge I've found, for the last 20 years, over 20 years, I had my own business. When you have your own business, you could work 24/7. There's always something more you could be doing to improve your business. So you need to set that time out to either meditate or do something to get your brain, to relax yourself, to move your body. I really love meditation. The challenge is, a lot of people struggle to do anything on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And
Consistency.
I don't see meditation as something that actually resolves the cause of trauma. Now,
No.
it certainly helps you feel better. It's a friend of mine who's a leading meditation trainer. She said to me that EFT, emotional freedom techniques, so tapping, weeds the garden, and meditation is the sunshine that makes the garden grow. And I really loved her analogy that both work on our mental and emotional state, but they're two very different tools.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
so
Oh,
So I think it's really important that if we have weight loss goals or any goal that we're not hitting, especially if we've got that zigzag where we get really close to our goal and then we bounce off it, or if it's a financial goal, it's the other way. We get right up to getting close to our financial goal, then we crash it, and then we get close and then we crash it. Um, have a look at that graph you had for your weight loss,
yeah.
and you'll
Do you want me to
see
pull it up
how,
again?
yeah,
Do you want
pull
me?
that up again if you can.
Yeah, I can. Here we go.
So you can see there that the first part there was a really good steady drop. Then they
Yeah,
started to get those zigzags, and
yeah.
for the last, is that couple of months or few weeks,
Few
there's
weeks.
been the last few weeks you've been getting so close.
Yeah,
Sometimes
point two.
within, yeah, zero point 0.2 of a kilo, 200 grams
Well,
of that goal,
the
and then
first time I
notice.
crashed, right, I knew I was going to kill it the next day. But that night I had to drive someone to the airport at 4 o'clock in the morning and I lost sleep and had some food at the airport. And then I was on the rise up and I'd lost the plot. Yeah, but, like
See,
just that was a month. It's been a month of zigzag. It's since about the 19th of April or,
yeah.
April or May. I can't remember.
And
I
you'll
think it was
notice
April.
with those zigzags, there's clear direction change. It's not like you get down close to the goal and you just wiggle around just above it. You're going down with a trajectory as if you're about to smash right through it, but just before you get there, you bounce off and go up out here,
Yeah. And then
and
same
then and then you
reverse.
go down again, and you almost get it, and then so it's not you get close to the goal and you wiggle in here and you're just not quite getting it. You're actually ricocheting up and down.
Well,
So that tells us there's an emotional driver. And by the way, the same happens when people have financial goals. If they're zooming towards their financial goal, they get within a gnat's wing of it and then they crash it, and then they zip up again and get close and then they crash it. Then there's some unconscious belief or emotional pattern that's limiting them on that goal.
how does somebody deal with this stuff? Like, I'm enjoying learning from it, and this is an experiment. But what if the goal was life and death goal? And like my life and death goal was get away from diabetes too, and high blood pressure and all the rest of it, fatty liver. I've achieved that, so nothing's broken anymore. So what I'm zigzagging now is really purely for research and self-enjoyment. I don't care if I'm 75 or 72; it doesn't really matter because once I hit that 72 goal, the new goal will have nothing to do with weight. It'll be lean muscle mass and body fat ratio and body definition and flexibility because I want to play sport and be good at it and live a great life. But at the same token, there are people whose lives do depend on the success of these goals. And I know we've talked, we've just brushed on EFT and NLP and what's out there. And we've talked about the emotional strategies. For those listening, if they're struggling with issues like this and it means a lot more to them and they want some help, what sort of help can they get in the way of some dealing with their trauma, dealing with their emotional state, dealing with their inconsistency? Because I know one thing for sure. I arrive at the destination of every goal I ever set and just how long it takes because I'm consistent.
Yeah.
That's the thing that pulls me through every time is I just, never give up. But
And here's the thing, that's in your nature, and that's why you've been so successful in so many areas. A lot of people just don't have that,
they
but
don't.
there are ways they can achieve their goals. I've got a lot of clients, for example, with ADD. Discipline for them is like, yeah, forget it. It's just not going to happen. You put a gun to their head, they can't be disciplined.
Hmm.
But they can resolve the emotions that are making them bounce off their goal. And even if someone is really, really disciplined, they can get almost to their goal and then sabotage it. And we
Yep.
all know people that have dropped 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 kilos and then put it back on with
Yep.
interest.
Yep.
The yo-yo diet now has become cliche.
Yeah. Well, I'm
So what's
experiencing.
going on there? What's happening there is there is some hidden benefit for keeping the weight. There's some hidden fear or loss if they lose the weight. There's there's some limiting belief about themselves,
Yep.
or there is some negative belief attached to gaining it. So let's look at a couple of them. Um, one that got me when I was going for financial goals is I had a religious upbringing, and we were told things like it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to go through the gates of heaven. Um, what was the other one? The money is the root of all evil. Now, they're actually that the latter one there is a biblical misquote. It's actually avarice or greed is the root of all evil. But nevertheless, when you have those beliefs that money is not spiritual, you won't go to heaven if you've got money, then you can be working towards your goals. And down here, financially, you're driven through desperation and need. You're in a pain situation. If I don't get more money in, I'm going to, I might get kicked out of my home, or I won't be able to afford to fix my car. I can't feed my family. I can't put my kids through school. So then we'll work hard for those necessities. And as soon as the pressure's off, our results crash again.
Yeah, now that's interesting there, because it was put to me what causes the yo-yo. People have what's called moving towards values, moving away from values. And the
Yeah.
moving away values is when the fire's under you, you'll raise up to get away from the fire. But then once the fire's removed or you can't feel the heat, you'll drop back down again.
Yeah.
Whereas moving towards values, I started all my journeys to all my goals mostly from moving away values, because when the pain's
Almost
high enough,
everyone does.
yeah, and the pain gets me motivated. But now I know that through training I've had, I completely switch over and invest as many moving towards goals as I can, because I realize that's going to inspire me on a day-to-day basis to improve, increase, expand. Whereas the moving away values, once the problem's gone, all the work and consistency and the application goes with it. So
Absolutely.
for people watching, it'd be well worth to Google and find out a lot more about moving towards values and moving away from values, because anything you try to avoid, once you've avoided it, it just goes out of your consciousness. You don't worry about it anymore, and you slip back. And that's how the yo-yo diet, the yo-yo saving, all those things is when you've moved away from what's causing you the problem, because you won't move until it hurts. For instance, this guy's walking along the street, and he looks up, and there's this Californian bungalow type house with a balcony out the front, and there's this Labrador, and it's going, it's howling its head off. And the guy goes, "G'day," and he says, "G'day." He says, "What's with the dog?" And he says, "Oh, he's lying on a nail." And the guy says, "Well, why doesn't he get up?" And he said, "It doesn't hurt enough."
Yeah.
How much of us are like that? We don't move until the pain is there, right? Whereas what I've realized now is what's going to keep me here now that I've achieved my move away from goal is to completely and quickly attach the outcome to a new outcome that's a move towards goal, so that I can always stay in a state of moving forward or striving to expand beyond that situation, rather than let it go and shrink back. Because I know anything that isn't maintained or watched will regress again.
Yeah. So let's look at your journey here. We look what happened with your weight. It was way up here, and you had the type 2 diabetes, your potential heart problems coming up, fatty liver, all that stuff going on. And initially, your weight loss was really dramatic.
Yep.
That was superhero stuff. But then, as soon as you got close, there start to be these flick ups
Yeah,
that
because I'm not
stopped you getting the
avoiding
rest of the way,
anything.
because you're not avoiding anything. But there's something else. It's not just the not avoiding anything. There's something pushing back, especially when you get within that far of your goal so many times,
It's fear of
and then it
success.
sabotages it. So there's something like a fear of success.
Yeah.
And I've worked with a lot of people where, if I lose that weight and keep it off, then I'll get that unwanted attention I got last time. Then I won't fit in with my fat friends when we all get together on a Thursday after work to eat cakes and drink coffee. There'll be some there'll be some price for beating that goal. There'll be some price on that. Sometimes it's even as simple as, uh, is it simple or is it complex as, I don't know who I'll be if I'm that way.
Well, it's interesting. I always go in a direction in order to see. And once I've seen, I see that direction. And sometimes we have to go in a direction so our feelings become clear. I know that if I didn't go through these zigzags, they're a blessing to me because now I can, it's like unpacking part of my psyche that I couldn't see. And I'm going, oh, wow, that's me. That's my behavior. Where else does this show up in my life? Where else? That's a profound question. So I've got a whole lot of data about myself, my behaviors, certain things that I do and don't that I never would have gotten. I said to someone that research without application and application without research and without a demonstrated outcome is null and void. Like a spiritual concept that can't be tied down to a physical reality is null and void, or a
Yeah.
mental construct. You need some sort of reference structure of saying, this is the start, this is the finish, this is what happened in the middle, this is the application, this is how it applies to me. Now, what can I do for others?
Well,
That's
let's
having that scientific approach
yeah.
in myself, I can watch out the way others lay things out, and I can then healthily critique it and help them achieve goals and outcomes and challenge dysfunctional thinking and alleviate anxiety and stress. So you were about to say,
Yeah. So the driver between addictive behavior, whether that's food, alcohol, cocaine, pornography, gambling, workaholism, whatever, the driver behind that is anxiety or some anxiety related emotion.
mm,
Now, can I ask specifically what was going on for you? What was the feeling for you when you got to within 200 grams of your goal?
I got a little bit of goosebumps, butterflies, like that feeling you get at the top of your shoulders. And I was excited. And then I had some sort of reservation. What's next? Why have I done this? And I've got a whole lot of feedback from people saying you look like a scarecrow. You've lost muscle mass. You're looking terrible. You've done a stupid thing. But I said to someone, I'm going to know things that others who are afraid to go here won't know. Like, what about the dudes that said, oh, if you go and search out in the boat, the world's flat and you're going to find out that you'll fall off the end of the world. And some people didn't. They circumvented the whole world. Well, I think, yeah, I could get shipwrecked out there and get lost. But what if I do discover that going here and doing these things has a profound benefit?
Well, let's
So
get right into that
that's it.
now.
Yeah,
Is
go
that
for it.
okay?
Yeah, that's
So,
100%.
so you talked about the butterflies feeling, and the butterflies feeling is actually related to anxiety.
Yeah,
So we talk about butterflies in the stomach when we have public speaking or when something really scary is about to happen.
yeah,
So there's some negative stuff attached to what people are saying. You look like a scarecrow, and so on. That's part of it.
or a cancer victim.
Or a cancer victim, yeah. Um, and I'll tell you another fascinating thing on that is most of the most of the cultures where people regularly live to be over 110 years old, they're lean people.
Well,
You
here's
know,
another amazing thing.
if
Nobody who meets me for the first time says anything like that. They say, gee, you look good for your age.
yeah.
Isn't that profound? It's
So
only the people who know you.
yeah,
Even my
and
phone face recognition doesn't work anymore because my face. Yeah.
so so here's the thing with that. Um, and you know that analogy of the crabs, you put the crabs in a pot to boil, and if one looks like it's going to climb up, the others pull them down.
Yeah.
Some of that, some of that resistance you get is from other people who they see your success,
Yeah.
and your success is showing up their lack of effort and results in that area. So they're going to say, "Oh, I know you're looking too skinny now. You've done too much." Well, if you compare most Australians with those cultures where people regularly live to be over 110 years old, guess what? They're all a whole heap leaner than almost anyone is in Australia.
Well,
You know, we have,
I've already got some evidence. I play badminton every Thursday night, and it's a group of about 70 people, 40 people, 50 people, right? About 50 people in the club, and they have different clubs come to the centre. I've gone from beginner to novice in 2 or 3 months, and I'm surprising people. I'm surprised myself. My reach, my stretch, my flexibility, it's way out there. So for me to do the push-ups I'm doing, the distance without pain in any of my joints, finally, my left knee is no longer hurting. That's like winning Tats Lotto, right? But I
yeah.
start off with sore ankles, both knees, elbows, back, shoulder. Nothing hurts anymore. Nothing.
Yeah.
So I know I'm moving in the right direction, and I know that I'm killing it.
So this is cognitive, but we got to find what's happening to those butterflies. What I'd suggest, and anyone watching can tap along with us now, we're going to be
Cool.
doing a process called EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques.
Yep.
And that's a scientifically validated way to resolve emotion, stress, and even physical pain. One thing that's really been demonstrated effective on is resolving food cravings. There was some great work done in the Bond University in Queensland where they had people brain scanned when they tuned into their desire to eat a particular unhealthy food. You know, maybe it was chocolate cookies or ice cream or cake or whatever their thing was. And certain parts of their brain would activate when they tuned into those things. And they got them to do this EFT, I think it was once or twice daily for 4 or 8 weeks. I don't recall the exact details. At the end of that time, they got them to think about that food. Well, first of all, they had no desire for it at all. And secondly, nothing lit up in the brain. It actually changed the neural pathways, changed the way the brain responded to stimulus. So when you can resolve the emotional drivers to overeating or inappropriate eating or excessive eating or craving foods that are not good for you,
All of the
then
above.
then you're in, and all of the above, yeah, then you're in control and you no longer get tempted. You know, I recall a few years ago when I was doing this thing called a liver gallbladder flush, and I had to not eat any foods all day, and on top of that, at certain exact times, I had to drink 750 grams of water with Epsom salts in it. And it's not the most delicious stuff. Just happened to coincide with a friend of mine's 40th birthday. So I was at her party. I'm dancing around. People are offering cakes all around. No thanks, no thanks, no thanks. Didn't have a single skerrick of that stuff. And at the prescribed time, my watch beeped. I went out. I drank my not so delicious drink of Epsom salts, and then went back into the party. So
Bring it
people
on.
say people say I broke my diet because it was my brother's birthday, my daughter's wedding, or whatever it is. Well, no, if you're really committed to doing what's right for you, that external stuff has no effect.
Yeah.
So I want you to, if you can, in your mind's eye, and for those of you watching, I want you to follow what we're doing, but I want you to have in your mind the desire you have for a particular food that's not ideal for you. You know, for me, it used to be chocolate and ice cream were my biggies, and the other one was potato chips. So you can apply this to a specific craving, and this is a great way to start with EFT. To really resolve it, we need to go back to the deeper causes. But let's tune into this if you can now, Freddie. Tune into that butterflies feeling, and just imagine you're right there. You're 200 grams off the target. What's the feeling?
Apprehension
Yeah. And where do you feel that in your body?
in my chest.
Yeah. And what's the intensity of that out of 10?
About a 7 or 8.
Okay, good. Now, as you tune into that, is that separate or similar to or stronger than or less than that butterflies feeling you talked about before?
Similar to, it's different, but about the same intensity. Yeah.
Okay. So with EFT, it's important. In fact, with anything we do, it's important that we focus. You were just talking about that before. If you want to have success in any area, that laser focus is important. So what I want you to do here, Freddie, is focus very specifically on that. What did you call that feeling again? Apprehension.
Apprehension.
Apprehension in the chest when you're 200 grams from your goal. And those of you watching, I want you to focus on a specific time you have a specific craving. For example, if you go to the fridge for the cheesecake when you get home from work, or if you have a wine when you get home from work, or whatever it is that you're having that's not helping you meet your goal. But tune into a specific time when you really feel a desire for that.
It's interesting, Russell. I checked in with myself, and it's the exact same feeling and intensity of the push-up story where I get to 49.5 and crash out. So it's got some sort of psychological apprehension. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
pinpointed it.
most people will find that that goes across with everything. That's why I have people come in for me to help them with weight loss issues, and their relationships improve, or they come in for relationship issues and they quit smoking without us even having worked on smoking, or they come in to quit smoking and find they get a promotion in their job or their business takes off. So let's everyone pick something specific to focus on, but also be on the lookout after this for other areas in your life that are changing as a result of what we got done. So when we do EFT, we start by tapping on the side of the hand. Now, in your mind's eye, where were you when you felt that apprehension? Was that when you stood on the scales, or was it first thing in the morning? When was it?
I think it's when the scales come up and show the number, and it's also when I'm reaching the pivot point of the goal I set for the push-ups. I'm relating them together because I feel they're connected.
Well, they are connected, but for this exercise, it's vital that we focus specifically on the scales.
We'll go for the scales. So, you know, as I approach the scales and I get on them, and I've got all this apprehension. What's it going to be? What's the story is it going to tell me today?
Okay, good. So let's start there, and then in a moment, we'll go to when you see the number. So just repeat this with me. Even though I feel this apprehension in my chest.
Even though I feel this apprehension in my chest.
What's the number going to be?
What's the number going to be?
I accept myself as much as I can.
I accept myself as much as I can.
Even though I feel this apprehension in my chest.
Even though I feel this apprehension in my chest.
What's this number going to be?
What's this number going to be?
I accept myself.
I accept myself.
Even though I feel all this apprehension in my chest.
Even though I feel all this apprehension in my chest.
What's that number going to be?
What's that number going to be?
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Good. Now we're going to tap in the top center of the head.
Will I remove my hat?
You don't have to, but you can if you wish.
I will. There we go.
There we go. Okay.
The solar panels.
And just tune into that specific moment and just say, this apprehension in my head.
This apprehension in my head.
Good. Now, I'm just going to take my glasses off to show you, but if you're wearing glasses, you can tap and miss the glasses. The next point is on the very inside of your eyebrows. Now, if you only have one hand, you can tap one-handed. I like to tap two hands just because it feels more balanced, but the result will be the same whether you do one or two. And just say, this apprehension in my chest.
This apprehension in my chest.
Then on the side of the eye, what will the number be?
What will the number be?
Then under the eye, this apprehension in my chest.
This apprehension in my chest.
Under the nose, what will that number be?
What will that number be?
Then on the crease of the chin, this apprehension in my chest.
This apprehension in my chest.
Now, the next point is immediately below the bumps of the collarbone. So if you run your fingers along the top of your clavicle so you get those two little points, and then slide down about 2 centimeters below, there's a slight hollow on the under edge of that collarbone. Now, you want to be in fairly close, not out here somewhere. Make sure you're in there and above the first rib, but below the collarbone.
Got it.
And just tap in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks like it. And just say, this apprehension in my chest.
This apprehension in my chest.
Now, the next point's on the side of the rib cage, and it's a hand's width below the armpit. If you're wearing a bra, it's about where the bra strap goes across, and in line with the seam of your shirt, if you have a shirt or jumper with the seam. And just say, this apprehension in my chest.
This apprehension in my chest.
Now, some people can tap both sides. Some people can only reach one at a time.
I've got to go like that.
Okay. That's right. Just tapping one side will do.
I've got too much clothing on.
Good. And then let's do the full version.
Yep.
Then we want to go to the fingers. And easy way to do it is to tap like this on each finger. So we're tapping where the corner of the nail is, right next to, halfway along the first joint on the side of the finger.
Yeah.
That's it. Yep. And just say, this apprehension in my chest.
This apprehension in my chest.
Good. And then tune into that specific time and just say, this apprehension in my chest.
This apprehension in my chest.
Then on the middle finger, this apprehension in my chest.
This apprehension in my chest.
And then on the ring finger, what will that number be?
What will that number be?
And then on the little finger, this apprehension in my chest.
This apprehension in my chest.
Now, the next point, we call this the gamut point. There's a groove in the back, on the back of the hand, in between the knuckle of the little finger and the ring finger. And if we tap that with 2 or 3 fingers in that groove, yep, that's it. And just say, these are all really important acupuncture points. And just say, this apprehension in my chest.
This apprehension in my chest.
Good. And then we can go to the side of the hand, this apprehension in my chest.
Apprehension in my chest.
What will that number be?
What will that number be?
This apprehension in my chest.
This apprehension in my chest.
What will that number be?
What will that number be?
This apprehension in my chest.
This apprehension in my chest.
What will that number be?
What will that number be?
This apprehension in my chest.
This apprehension in my chest.
What will that number be?
What will that number be?
This apprehension in my chest.
This apprehension in my chest.
Now, we could keep going on the fingers, but I just want to check in at this point. Imagine yourself there going to the scales. You're just about to jump on. What's that apprehension now? How does that feel?
Different, very different. Like, I'm sort of looking forward to it.
Great. Okay, good. Now I want you to get to that point. You look at that scale and you're so close, you're only 200 grams off. How does that feel?
Feels I'm back where I was meant to be, and that's the starting point rather than a finishing point. So it feels to me that once I get there and I just, yes, I'm home. Now I'll just go the last 400 grams because I want to come 200 under, because the machine I'm going to get scanned on might have a drift. So I'm allowing for calibration. So I'm going for 71.8, even though the goal's 72. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I feel that shifted something for sure. That was beautiful.
Let's
to let the viewers know, I've done some EFT training with Russell on an ongoing basis at his workshops, and I've used tapping in my own life for other issues, and therefore I have a confidence that it works. So for you who are trying it for the first time, stick with it, do it a lot. It works, and it does bring about change.
Yeah, and Fred, if you want to put my contact details there, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy for them to give me a call.
100%, selfdevelopment.com.au. It'll be in the footnotes of the video for people to contact you, and all your social media contacts will be carried across from the other things. So if anybody wants to reach out to Russell for EFT, either training and workshops to become qualified themselves, to be able to practice on themselves and others, or if they just need treatment to work through things. There is one thing I will add about Russell, is also a master practitioner of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and EFT on its own has a lot of benefits, but most of the people who are proficient and get the great results also combine it with NLP, and in Russell's case, alpha repatterning and a few other things, because at 64 this week, I think it is. This week or next?
Yeah, in August.
In August.
August 20th, yeah.
Russell and I go back well over 30 years. You know, we met at an Anthony Robbins seminar, both of us. But both of us have had a strong journey of collecting different training and professional development modalities and therapeutic interventions. So if you do seek Russell out for different challenges, his multifaceted and dimensional approach is priceless. I help and serve people in a similar fashion, but there are certain cases I certainly refer on to Russell, because I feel for the right sort of people and the right sort of problems, his approach is superior to mine. And where I shine. But where Russell shines, I send people to him. So if you feel a resonance with what you've heard today and what you've seen on our video, please seek him out, and for your own benefit. And Russell is non-judgmental. He'll hear your story and take it in, and he has so much compassion and empathy and skill. And I honestly can say that part of my journey is through Russell's training has given me abilities and scope that I never had before. So there you have it.
Thanks very much, Freddie. Now, Freddie, I want to get a bit more into the nitty-gritty with this for you, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Because one of the things that often comes out is people hitting their goal and then bouncing back.
Oh, okay. So once achieved.
Yeah. So your goal is 71.8 kilos. Is that correct?
Yep.
So I want you to imagine you get onto the scales and it's 71. You're right down. You've nailed it.
Yep.
How would that feel? I want you to close your eyes and go right there into your mind's eye. You step on the scales and it's 71.0.
I would feel I was on the launching pad of a new direction, a new goal, a new frontier, ready to go and equipped with the baseline information I need to achieve the next goal, which is a higher goal. So it's no more weight loss. It's a different goal of lean muscle mass and body fat ratio, which means I will actually put weight back on, but I'm good with that because it's
because it'll be muscle weight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Now, I want you to just go into that when you see that number and just ask inside, are there any negatives to that? Are there any ways in which that's not totally comfortable?
No, I'm 100% comfortable with that.
Great, great. Now, this is interesting with people because often we do that with people and it's not comfortable. And then we have to track back to what happened earlier on that set them up for that. So sometimes, for example, I've asked a client, well, what happened last time you were at your ideal weight? And they might say, oh, I got abused, or that was when my father died, or there was a bad car accident, or I got criticized by others. And so often you have to then apply EFT to that to get the results to continue.
Not a good case study this time. When I was at my ideal weight and I was younger, I felt freaking awesome. And that's the association I have now. I felt awesome. I thought, yeah.
Great. Okay.
I can do wonders from here. That's how I felt. But you were hoping I'd say, "Well, I had another problem," so you can EFT tap it down.
Oh no, I'm glad you don't have to, but it would have been a better demonstration if something had to come
Of
up.
course. But
yeah,
in future videos and other matters, we may find that's very much the case. And I think one of the things that we decided with our other series on finding the perfect partner, we still haven't done part 3.
yes,
We were going to invite some people on there for some tapping and some NLP. So we'll come back to that in a future video. Well, this has been incredible.
that would be
We've
great.
been going for quite a long time. I think this is a wrap. How do you feel?
Absolutely. One thing I just want to check on, Freddie, is with what we've done now, I would expect you'd hit that goal in the next few days, a week maximum. If you don't, hit me up and we'll get whatever else is in the way.
And we can always give an update to people what happened. Yeah.
That'll be great.
All
Thanks,
right.
Freddie, and see you later.
See you later, everybody. And thanks for hanging in there. I hope this brings real value to you and gives you some insight on your own challenges and journey.